StreamYard. So, welcome everyone to this session on how to crack a marketing role without an MBA. My name is Varun Satia, and I lead a company called Kraftshala. I'm quickly going to share my screen for you guys. So, a few things to keep in mind. First up, for this session, we have a couple of people on the moderator panel today who are going to help me answer some of the questions that are coming in. So, Nishtha leads marketing training for us. And she's previously worked with Nestle and GSK Consumer. Resham joined us straight from MBA. She passed out in 2019. Ironically, both MBAs. Personally, I have an MBA as well, so you would find this a little hypocritical coming from three MBAs about how to pursue a marketing career without an MBA. But the truth is that the world has changed a lot from the time that I graduated in marketing. And that's not to say that an MBA is not a great career to have. It is a fantastic thing if you can sort of get into one of the great institutes, but there are many ways to sort of get there. Yeah. So to give you a quick background, I finished engineering in 2009 from BITS, then went and did an MBA from FMS, then joined Nestle, worked on 3 brands, essentially in my marketing stint at Nestle. The first one was on Kit Kat, which is a chocolate you'd be familiar with. Then I switched over to the Maggi portfolio, first working for about 18 months on Maggi sauces, and then for a couple of years on Maggi noodles, worked essentially on the classic masala portfolio, got the perks that typically marketing professionals of large brands and got. The last campaign that I worked, the last campaign that I essentially worked on was amongst the best campaigns that I had done, but it was time to move on. So in 2015, I quit. I started a company in education that was not called Kraftshala. I was quite sure that I had a great product to build. I was quite sure that I had a fantastic idea. I was quite wrong about it, and in about 10 months from when I quit my job, I shut down that product. I shut down that idea. And I started to pursue projects that were more interesting and more closer to the heart. One of which turned out to be Kraftshala, and that essentially is today one of India's premier marketing and sales training platforms. So we started our journey by first offering online marketing programs for the top 12 business schools of the country, then in the subsequent year expanding it to more business schools, and then in subsequent year expanding it to working professionals. Last month, or specifically last week, we launched our first program for people who were aspiring for entry-level marketing roles, right? So that's on the background. Now, what I'm going to be covering in today essentially is 3 things, right? So I'm going to be talking about the new world of marketing, and I'm not going to give you any gyan about it, because the only things that I'm going to try and pick about are those things which help us answer the next 2 questions, which is how do you then get shortlisted by companies who are operating in this new world of marketing, and then how do you crack a marketing interview once you get shortlisted, right? So those are the 3 things that I'm going to be covering in. Now, just because a lot of the audience today are people who have never done a marketing role before, I just want to clarify one thing, that what the difference between sales and marketing is essentially. So, sales is typically one-to-one persuasion, which essentially means that let's say that you are representing your club in college, and you go out and pitch a sponsorship to a company. That's what we typically in our world call sales, right? Because you're speaking to someone one-to-one and then trying to persuade them, and you might have a lot of supporting material, but essentially that process is sales. Marketing is typically what you would refer to once you're trying to persuade a large number of people, right? So running an ad is marketing. Working through influencers is marketing. Operating a Twitter page is marketing. Running attracting organic content on your website is marketing, and so on and so forth, right? So that little bit of clarification there. And the reason that I think that it's a career that a lot of it's a career that not enough people are pursuing, and enough talented, ambitious, hardworking people are pursuing, is because I don't think people understand just how beneficial the spread of technology has been for marketing. There is essentially a massive boom in marketing roles that's not just there today, but it has been happening at least for the last 5 to 7 years. And even in the pandemic, when advertising revenues have reduced drastically, the number of roles in marketing haven't gotten that impacted, and now they're on the upswing again, even before the economy has sort of recovered totally. And that just shows that the acceleration in marketing careers was already happening. And there are two reasons for why that is happening. The first is the simple mathematical fact that the number of consumer products that exist have gone up massively, right? A lot of people, in our country tends to be a fairly socialist country, so people tend to think that one product is replaced by a better product, and that's how the world moves. But in reality, a lot of the times, just the sheer number of a lot of solutions are solving problems that didn't sort of lend themselves to consumer products earlier, right? So you take the example of taxis. Taxis was not a consumer product. You didn't go to a new city, or you didn't exist in a city and take taxis from a consumer product, right? It was a fairly unregulated or a government regulated space that was there until Ola and Uber essentially came in and created a product, and created a market out of something that had existed as a very low value additive entity, right? And that is something that is the first thing to sort of grasp here, right? So I'm gonna just show you a short campaign to sort of show you how a product like that essentially sort of builds demand for itself, and then we're going to sort of continue from there. This is a campaign that Ola launched a long time ago, so I think a lot of you would have seen it. This is January of 2015 that they launched it. Have a look, and then we'll come back. Sorry, I just missed sharing the audio on that one. Just give me a second. As I said, new platforms. You'll have to be a little kind to me on this one. This is the first time that I'm using this one.
Mr. Parthasarthi completes 25 years today. And to recognize his dedication, perseverance, and hard work, I present to him a small token of our appreciation. Memento.
मेमेंटो
Memento.
मेमेंटो
चलो निकलो, ओला मोबाइल ऐप पर कैब बुक करो, गाड़ी चूज करो, राइड नाउ पर क्लिक करो एंड जस्ट गो. डाउनलोड द ओला मोबाइल ऐप टुडे.
Super. So when this is essentially a campaign that Ola had launched, as I said, in around 2015, to essentially tell users that now there existed a solution for convenient cab booking, right? So I've grown up in Delhi all my life, and it is not, cabs were very, very expensive, and those most of us who were using this kind of transport were using essentially autos, right? And it is not easy to negotiate with an auto in Delhi. If you've come from a city like Chennai, if you come from a city like Mumbai, actually Chennai is maybe equally worse, but let's say Mumbai, Pune, anything in Maharashtra, essentially, I think they might have sort of some complaints there, but it's a very different ball game negotiating with someone in Bombay, which is very easy, very sort of convenient to do, versus negotiating in Delhi, right? So in that sense, the first thing that Ola pitched to people was the fact that, look, we are very, very convenient to use. So it's just an app, you book it, and you go forward, right? Now from 2015 they saw a lot of adoption, right, of users. So a lot of people who were not using app-based taxis started using app-based taxis, but a lot of them still didn't. And the reason that they didn't was because because it was a new solution, because it was tech based. A lot of people thought that, look, this is going to be very expensive, right? So this is not something that is going to be for us. I would, so in Delhi we have the Delhi Metro. In a lot of cities you have the local trains or buses. So you would have some ways of commuting which would be much more economical to do. And so therefore, once they saw that, look, this is something that we've already played on a fair bit, let's talk to people who are let's talk to people who are essentially having a problem on their budget, and let's try and explain to them just how good this solution is, right? So from 2015 to 2016, the campaign changed a little bit. So I'll show you one example of that campaign as well. You would notice that they targeted essentially college-going kids in this one, because as all of us know, if there's one thing that people lack in college, it is money to spend, right? That's what changes when you start working. You have a disposable income, not so much when you're in college. So they chose that audience to show in their campaign. Have a look at this before we move forward.
मच्चा मच्चा सुपर मचा मेरा दोस्त चलता है 145 रुपए पर किलोमीटर से और ओला माइक्रो चलती है सिर्फ 6 रुपए पर किलोमीटर से। मच्चा
तो ऐप खोलो, ओला माइक्रो बुक करो और चलो सिर्फ 6 रुपए पर किलोमीटर से।
Yeah, so in that sense, now you can start seeing how a product like Ola did not exist. I'm gonna later in this session talk about Cashify. Cashify helps you sell old phones. That's not a product that existed 10 years ago. I'm going to talk about Pick My Laundry. It's a laundry service, did not exist 10 years ago. There's just so many consumer products that technology has unlocked, that it's because it's so common, we don't really realize just how much our life has changed because of that. So let me just sort of go back to my deck for a second, right? Now, as I said, the first is the fact that the consumer products have gone up substantially. But the second piece is the fact that nature of marketing and how marketing was done has also changed rapidly, right? So if I go back to the first year that I started doing marketing, this was in 2012 when I was working in Maggie Sauces at that point. Essentially, the way the process worked was the fact that, in a given year, we would be on an average creating one TV commercial, right? Because Maggie is a mass brand. So you would be creating one TV commercial in the year. You would run it at specific times when the chances of driving business were high. So, sauces consumption used to happen. Maggie sauces consumption used to happen a lot during the monsoon months. Should happen a fair bit during winter. But it would be throughout the year as well, right? So it's not very, very seasonal. It's not like cold drinks that are highly skewed towards summer, for instance. So in that sense, you would decide these are the big months for me. I'm going to run this ad here. And while I'm going to run this ad, I'm also going to be creating a radio spot, or I'm also going to be advertising on print, which is essentially all the newspapers. And I'll do these radio and print in my key market. So I will pick some of my critical geographies, critical cities or states, and I will invest in radio and in print there. Whereas whenever it came to TV ads, obviously TV ads would go everywhere that TVs went to, which is much larger. And so therefore, I would get a lot of reach, and therefore I'll get a lot of sale. Now, if my ad worked really well, then I will think about reusing this campaign until I saw that people were really tired of this campaign. They didn't want to see it. And then I'd create a new campaign, right? This is how marketing really used to happen until until a few years ago. And basically people had no option but to watch the ad, right? So if you're watching TV today as well, if you're watching a show, it just it just breaks into ads, and you have no, it is now such an odd thing that you can't skip it, you can't go anywhere. So people actually used to watch a lot of ads by force. Similarly, when it came to radios, even today, like they break into ads, and a lot of people switch channels, but a lot of people don't as well. So that's how most advertising really happened, right? But today things are different, and any time that you are forced to watch an ad, you want to your patience levels are quite low. And that is essentially in part because all the digital platforms have reduced the time of forced advertising in a massive way, right? So if you're talking about Instagram, you have a matter of seconds. If you talk about YouTube, you have a matter of seconds, right? So in one way, these digital channels have forced advertisers and marketers to run ads which are much smaller. Earlier we could run 30-second commercials, 45-second commercials on TV. Today, in some ways, we can't run more than 5-6 second, at least video ads of 5-6 seconds. So in some ways you could imagine that, oh, I could tell an interesting story like the Ola video ad that you saw. It's a fun story, but it took about 25-30 seconds. Here I have just 5 seconds. So what can I say other than Ola taxi cab, download the app, right? That's all I can do in 5 seconds. So in some ways it makes the marketer's job harder, but in other ways it makes it easier as well. And the way it makes it easier essentially is that it gives the digital platforms give me far more information. As a marketer, I get far more information about users than I used to do earlier. So even though I have lesser time to tell my message, because I have more data on users, and not individual data, obviously it's aggregate data, the platforms keep users privacy in mind, but at an aggregate level, because I have more data, because I can segment and identify these pools of users really well, therefore I can customize my campaign really well. Therefore I don't have to reach as many people, I can reach only a section of people, and I can tell them more relevant stories about more relevant products, right? So if, for example, someone is advertising, for example, women's hygiene products to me, that's not a product that I'm likely to really be interested in at any point, right? Therefore, a Facebook or a YouTube is unlikely to show me that ad. It's going to show me something that I'm going to find relevant, whereas on television, you have no option. Everyone sees largely the same kinds of commercials. But also there is a fair amount of message modification that you can do. And this is where the magic really starts to happen. And this is what makes the marketing job really, really interesting, right? This particular part of how do you modify these messages so that they become more relevant is why there are so many different marketing jobs that exist today, right here, right now, right? So let's take one simple example, right? So Pick My Laundry is an app that exists. Essentially, it's a laundry service, right? So it allows you the option of essentially living like we did in the hostels, where someone would come in, pick up our laundry, wash it, get it back. You don't have to worry about it at all. You just charge based on some standard pricing measures, right? So anyone who's not in the habit of washing their own clothes, for them this is amazing, right? And so that's why the product exists. Now, the magic really happens in marketing when you understand, like if Pick My Laundry had to advertise on TV, they would have had to run a general ad like Ola did, and just explain what the app is all about, right? But on digital platforms, they can use interesting user insights to determine who is more likely to start using Pick My Laundry, and therefore target those people much more sharply. So for instance, one of the things that you will realize happens is that when people, and I'll be very, very sharp, when men in particular, right, when men who are between a certain age band, let's say about 23, 24 to about 30, tend to move from one location to the other location, and they are single, they're not married, then the likelihood of them needing an app like this is much higher, right? So I'm not saying that every guy who's single needs it. I'm just saying that in general, the tendency of that audience to respond to an app ad like Pick My Laundry is very high compared to the general audience, right? So if I can specifically identify this audience which has moved to a new town, then I can run more customized ads for them, and my return on my money of spending these ads on Facebook or YouTube are going to be much higher, right? So can I do that on the online medium? Absolutely, I can do that, right? So if I just go to Facebook's ad platform, and this is free for anyone to use and see, you can select that, look, I want to pick people between 24 and 30 years old. I want to pick men essentially, and I want to go and click people specifically who have recently moved. And because Facebook tracks location data, they do give you they give you an idea of who's recently moved, and so therefore you can pick up this piece, and then Facebook will tell you essentially, what is the reach that you have in your audience, and so therefore how many people are you likely to reach with this audience, right? Now the magic, of course, is the fact that you just don't want people who have recently moved, right? You want people who have moved away from their hometown. Yeah, so this is where what differentiates a lot from the average marketers from the good marketers, is the fact that they understand it's not about recently moved, right? Let's say that let's say that you used to work in Bangalore and your hometown is Pune, right? So you essentially go and work in Bangalore, then you come back to Pune. Now when you come back to Pune, Facebook will track that this person has recently moved from Bangalore to Pune, but you've really come back to your hometown, right? So that's not helpful, and that's something that you should ideally not include in your audience set, which is why Facebook also gives you the further sharpening, where you can choose the audience which is away from their hometown, and once you click this, you can simply run a campaign. And this is something that I've just put on a slide. This is not an actual Pick My Laundry app, but just to give you an indication of how you can use this information, you can essentially launch a targeted ad for them, and the likelihood that this ad is going to do better than the average Pick My Laundry app is quite high, right? This is called precision marketing, and there are many ways of using additional pieces of information to tell better stories, right? One way to tell better stories is to make it more relevant. The other is to just tell longer, more interesting stories and let people choose to watch content, right? So that's also something that a lot of brands do. So there are many ways of doing this, but what this essentially, I'm going to skip on the Cashify piece. Actually, you know what? Let's just do a quick piece on Cashify. So Cashify, as I said, is a platform to buy and sell old cell phones. What do you think? Their primary goal is to essentially get sellers of mobile phones to come on their platform, right? Because if you get sellers, buyers come automatically. So what do you think? When do you think someone is more likely to sell a mobile phone? Just like when we said in Pick My Laundry, one of the times someone is likely to install that app is when they've recently moved to a new town, right? Similarly, can you think of any occasion, life stage, when someone might be more likely to sell their old phone? Yeah, you can just put it in chat, and I'll just sort of go through that. Anyone want to take a guess? All right. So Mehul says new releases of phones, and Shishti takes the wider thing that whenever you want to buy a new phone. Kushal says, all right, let me get these people right up there. So Shishti says when they buy a new phone. Ruchi says when they get bonuses and salary hikes, that's when they want to sell their new phone, right? I think all of you are right. This is beautiful, right? Abhishek says birthdays, right? And why do people sell their phones on birthdays? Because they want to buy a new phone, right? So this is essentially how you create better advertising. If you can identify what are the times what are the times that someone is likely to purchase a new phone, then those are the same occasions when they want to sell their old phone, right? So when do people want to sell their old phones? When someone wants to buy a new phone. When do people want to buy the new phones? Whenever there is a new release of a major phone, that's when a lot of people want to sell their old phone. So in fact, Cashify did this. They partnered with one of the OnePlus launches, and they were the official resellers, right? Why were they doing that? Because a lot of people would want to get hands on the new OnePlus by selling their old phone, right? So that's a big occasion. Then birthdays is something which you can absolutely use, because Facebook gives you that information, right? Facebook, Google both know when someone's birthday is coming. So brands, right before your birthday, they may not say that they know this, but the ad is still running like that we know, week before your birthday, 2 weeks before your birthday, you'll start seeing this thing when when you start seeing this ad for a Cashify or something like that, right? So anytime you can identify this data that tells that indicates that you're more likely to be in the market for a new phone, that's when you're likely to go to Cashify, right? Now, unfortunately or fortunately, Facebook and YouTube cannot predict when you get a salary raise, right? Not yet. Some other platform might. So they may not be able to target specifically when you got a bonus, or when you got a salary raise, or when you got a new job, but they can predict other occasions through the data that they already have on you. And that essentially is how that essentially is how you make marketing of today far more powerful than it used to be 8 to 10 years ago, right? And this is also the difference between a marketer who earns, let's say, 3 lakh rupees versus a marketer who earns 15 lakh rupees or 30 lakh rupees or 50 lakh rupees a year, right? Now, a lot of people seem to think that that marketing is just this way or that way. If you go to business schools, if you go to undergrad colleges, if you go to working professionals, everyone has their thing about marketing. And what I'm here to tell you is that one marketing role in job description terms might look like another marketing role, but in reality, the value that a great marketing professional can add is enormous compared to someone who's just doing a basic job, right? Because marketing is about delivering growth. It's about persuading people to come in and do what you'd like to do. Every entrepreneur needs it, but at the same time, you can do it well or you can do it poorly. And the gap is so high that marketers either tend to make very little money or they tend to make a lot of money, right? Or either you're CEO of the company, or you're the guy who's just generating reports and not doing any analysis, right? And that is something that I hope anyone who's starting up recognizes, that that there are lots and lots of different kinds of roles, right? Now, there are basic tasks that you do in a role, and then there are more strategic tasks, right? From a basic task roles, any role that pays 3 lakhs or under is basically about doing the operational things, right? What that essentially means is that you are basically setting the parameters on Facebook. You're choosing, this is how you run an ad, this is how you do this is how you do SEO, these are the keywords that you need to fill in, and so on and so forth, right? These are the reports, and then they give it to someone who's more senior and better at it, right? So that is something that basic roles in digital marketing tend to look at, right? Whereas when it comes to more strategic roles, you are still doing the basic things. So you're still running ads, but in addition to running ads, you're looking at business opportunities. You're doing the kinds of things that we just talked about, which is thinking about how do I get people to adopt more of my product. If I'm Ola, how do I get people to start using my cab, right? I'm not just interested in the basics of, this is how I run an ad on Facebook. I'm thinking more business and user out, that is my user even on YouTube or Facebook? Is that the best way for me to capture my user, or are there other things that I need to be doing, right? If I'm spending X lakhs or X crores on my marketing spends, how do I get the same traction the same results, but at 20% lesser monies, right? Because if I can save 20% lesser, then I can spend it in other more productive spaces, right? Now, those are the kinds of questions that interestingly you get by analyzing the basic data. So in that sense, when you look at job descriptions, you will find that both job descriptions look the same, right? But I'm here and I'm telling you that they're not the same, because the person who can do stuff on the right can also do stuff on the left, and will also do in their own job role, will do stuff on the left. But it's the right thing, the things on the right that really sort of are what you need to aspire for, what you need to get in. And if you can do these things well, then then if you're earning 3 lakh rupees on a basic role, you should be earning anywhere between 6 lakhs to 1.5 crores per year on the right? And this is obviously if you're in a job. If you run your own business, then the returns could be far more substantial, right? So in that sense, both functions doing marketing, one person earning 3 lakh rupees, the other person earning much more. Why does it happen in that sense? That's because of the quality of their ideas and the quality of their analysis, and so on and so forth. If anyone tells you that you can start doing strategy roles without understanding the basics, they are wrong, right? So you need to understand the basics really well. And most times, any job that you take up, even when I started from business school, I might have gone to a great school, but I still had to start at the bottom as well, because that's how you learn the ropes, right? You don't learn enough in just sitting and listening to me, right? You learn marketing by doing marketing. So you have to learn the ropes, but at the same time, just because you've know the basics doesn't mean that next step is going to be that you're going to earn double the salary or 10 times the salary. It doesn't happen like that, because what you're doing in the strategic parts of the job are different than what you're doing in the basics. So you need to know the basics, and then you need to keep moving up the ladder. And so therefore, the kinds of jobs that you need to aspire to in marketing have to have an element of strategic aspect, and you need the right tools to look at the strategic aspects and then sort of learn from that, right? If I don't give you a toolkit, then you'll just sort of sit there and keep doing the stuff as you were doing earlier, and then you'll realize 5 years from now that someone else can do your job much cheaper than you, right? Because that's how the world works in, right? So if you keep going better, you keep going 1x up. Now, the obvious question that you're going to ask me at this stage is, Varun, how do we by the way, I can keep taking in some questions as well. So, all right. So let me see if someone has interest. All right. So essentially, Atharv asked, I recently read Facebook has some rules regarding not using the word you, which points out that you know the data of the person. That's right. It scares the shit out of people when they realize that advertisers are targeting them individually. And it's not good practice in general as well. But at the same time, nothing stops a brand from advertising to someone whose birthday is 2 weeks away, as long as they don't say that, hey, your birthday is coming up in 2 weeks, right? So in that sense, I don't need to say it. I just know that people whose birthdays are 2 weeks away are more likely to respond to my ads than the general audience, right? So I can use this information without the user realizing that. And Facebook, as I said, does not share user data. It's all aggregated data, right? Facebook just allows you to target people, and then there is an algorithm that figures in whose birthday is coming in, right? So that's how these things happen. So interesting things coming in. Nitin says, can we get the recording of this video? I'll tell you what, Nitin, stay in this video. If you still need help in the recording, if there's something not understood, I'll send the recording to you. Yeah, so don't worry about it, but you'll have to stick around for a little bit, right? So next step, how do you get into a great marketing role, right? Now, I'll tell you first what doesn't work, okay? This kind of thing doesn't work usually, right? So just going there and desperately asking that, look, a lot of people write into me saying that, I'm out of a job, can you give me a job, right? I have all the empathy for them, but this is not going to get you a job in any company whatsoever, right? A lot of people are applying mindlessly to roles that are not they're never going to get considered for, right? And it's a waste of your time. It breaks your spirit because you keep getting rejected and you think that the world is against you. It doesn't work like that. If you just think about what you're doing, you'll find a better way, and I'm going to try and help you find that better way of figuring out what kind of roles that you can apply for. And I will do it the marketing way. In marketing, what we do is we try and understand the user's perspective and we solve a problem for them, right? So how does Cashify sell phones? It figures out that, look, people need money to buy a new phone. They get a kick from buying a new phone. If I can find these people and enable them, then that's a problem that I've solved for them, right? So we have to understand what is the problem that the recruiter is facing, why, which perspective are they coming from, and then figure out how we can best pitch ourselves to them. Yeah. And so what happens, okay, by the way, like let's do a quick check again. Anyone recognize this movie before I get into the into how you should go about it? Anyone recognize this movie? So there's going to be a 10-second lag between the two of us, so don't worry about it if I'm quiet for a second. Awesome. So Alvin gets it right. It's Kung Fu Panda. Yeah. Now a lot of you are going to be thinking about this. What the heck does Kung Fu Panda have to do with oh, a lot of you have guessed it. It's a fairly popular movie, so that's something that's good. So a lot of you are going to ask me, what does Kung Fu Panda have to cracking a marketing role? If you haven't watched the movie, don't worry too much about it. But if you have watched the movie, you'd know that there is a Shifu, our trainer in Kung Fu Panda, has to select one dragon warrior to face up to the main villain in the movie. I'm forgetting the name of the villain right now. I typically forget the name. But the point is that they need to select one dragon warrior, and Shifu knows that none of his warriors are good enough to face up to the challenge that is coming in. And yet, even though he doesn't believe any of his current students are good enough, he still goes in and chooses the best student out of them, right? And the reason for that is that Shifu, like all bosses, do not want to take a risk on someone new, right? No boss, no recruiter wants to, right? They want to hire candidates who are low risk, right? Just like you, why do you buy from large brands, right? Why do you want to study from Kraftshala and not from the next door institute? Because you know that when you go to large brands, they are trusted. A lot of people have used them before, and it's an important decision for your education. Similarly, when it comes to recruiters, it's a big decision for them. They don't want to take in untested people and suffer for it. Ideally, they want candidates who have done the exact work that they are being asked to do in the new job. They should have done that work earlier, right? Which is fine for experienced candidates, but obviously for someone new, it becomes a real challenge, right? And the only way that you can go over that challenge is if you demonstrate, not tell them, right? No one is going to believe you. Your mother will believe your words, but the world outside is unlikely to believe you just if you say it, right? So you need to demonstrate the fact that you have both intent and capability, right? Now, what does intent mean? If I go back to the last slide, you notice how I framed this, right? People who have done this work before and want to get better at it, right? Most people, marketing, coding, none of these are very, very hard jobs. Most people, if they apply their minds to it, can do it. It's just that, as the clock ticks from 7:29 to 7:30, a lot of people shift to IPL. And the reason that they shift to IPL is from the job is because it's just not interesting for them, right? So the more interesting you find a job, the more likely it is that you'll not find that trade-off very high. The more likely it is that you'll want to get better at it, right? So therefore, and this is especially important when you're young, right? When you're old, you tend to be a little more disciplined. When you're young, people want to see that you have intent towards a career, right? That if you're saying that you're interested in marketing, show me that you really want to do marketing. Tell me what proof you have. Don't tell me. Show me what proof you have that shows that you are interested in marketing. And then once I have that proof, show me that you have the capability to do it before, right? That is the perspective from which they came in. And what this essentially means is that if you want a realistic chance, right, sometimes, one in a blue moon, something will happen. But if you want a realistic chance, then you need to generate relevant work experience for yourself, right? Now, this is how an MBA's life varies from someone who's not done an MBA, right? If you do an MBA from an IIM Ahmedabad, from any of the top 6 IIMs, ISB, FMS, all these XLRI, all these big institutes, then people are willing to bet on you because it's very hard to get into them. Everyone else has to generate relevant work experience for themselves, and then show that they're capable of of doing this work, right? So how do you generate relevant work experience? There are essentially 3 ways, all right, that you can do this. And I'm talking about someone who does not have any experience in marketing and wants to get into marketing, right? The first is that there are companies which are known for taking freshers and training them well. Now, these are not companies which are more generous or charitable than the other companies. It's just that this is how their model works, right? So good example is, for instance, Performix, right? Now, I know Performix well because the co-CEOs of Performix India are investors in Kraftshala, and obviously, as a marketing firm, as India's largest performance marketing firm, I understand their work well. But what happens there is that they go to a select set of campuses, undergrad campuses, and then they hire high potential people. Then they train those people over 6 months. After training them for 6 months, those people are absorbed into the organization if they do well. And then they sort of are continued, right? And obviously, because their model works on selecting a small band of people and so on and so forth, they don't go to everywhere. They don't have the opportunity to hire from every place. And to be honest, that's how a lot of large companies whose models allow them to train candidates, those are good companies to get into. So if you can get into something like that directly, then that's very good, and you should go ahead and do that. The second thing is what we have launched recently, and I don't want this to be a pitch session. So most of you have already applied for the Marketing Launchpad. Those who haven't will eventually do it. I know it. But I just want to put this program in context of why we have launched it. It is essentially because of the fact that a lot of people don't have experience in marketing. But even when we have launched it, it has an 8-week internship, right? Because the thing is that if you don't do this 8-week internship, no recruiter is going to be interested in hiring you. So the 8-week internship is essential. And even in the 12 weeks that we are training you, we are basically going to giving you projects to solve. Because even in those 8 weeks, if that's the first time that you're really running marketing campaigns, then you've had it, right? Then you'll not learn very quickly, which is not what we want, right? So that's the other way to go about it. And there might be other programs like this in India. I don't know it yet. I certainly think that more programs like this will come up in the future. But once again, we only take in 30 candidates. So if you don't make it to the Launchpad, then what do you do, right? The third way is that you want to take in an internship. But once again, this is an option that you are already well aware of. The only thing I will add is that with a good set of professionals who will help you learn. Never judge an internship by the stipend that it gives, right? You can judge a job by how much money it gives in. Although I would argue that you should really think about how does this job set you up for your future and for the money that you want to make it. Because most people earn money after, like, the bulk of your career earnings are going to come towards the end, right? Because someone earning 1 crore rupees a year, if they started out at 10 lakh rupees a year, it doesn't matter. When they start earning 1 crore, they've earned like 10 years of salary in just that 1 year, right? So in that sense, most of the money that you earn in your lifetime comes towards later. So it makes a huge difference when later on in your career, are you earning 50 lakhs, 30 lakhs, 70 lakhs, whatever is the money that you're earning. Are you earning that, or are you earning 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs, 20 lakhs towards the end of your career, right? Makes a huge difference. So in that sense, you want to optimize for learning, and this is especially important in an internship. Choose companies that will allow you to work with very smart professionals that will set you up well for your future. And then when you have that work X, then you give yourself a good shot, right? Once again, I am not interested in placing in getting you placed over jobs that pay 2.5 lakhs and 3 lakhs, right? For those, you don't need relevant work X at all. And frankly, like I would not recommend you to take up those jobs, because it's just mindless, monotonous putting of numbers, data entry. People say the job task is analyzing campaigns, but in reality, all you're doing is generating the report and giving it to someone else who's been doing that job for 4 or 5 years, who themselves are not very good trainers. You don't want to do that, right? So it's my personal view. Maybe someone else might there disagree, but what I would say is, unless your financial conditions are weak, in which case I do understand it, but still then you have to realize that even if your financial conditions are weak, then you're not learning on the job, so you have to learn outside the job as well. Yeah, so those are the 3 ways to generate relevant work experience for yourself, and go forward from there. Now the next step is to actually get shortlisted, right? So you say that, okay, I've figured out these three ways, but the point is, I still need to make a good CV in order to get shortlisted. I'm not going to cover CV making in this session. We've created a free program for all people out there to go ahead and make their CVs and make it relevant for a marketing recruiter. You can download the Kraftshala app and get that program free of cost. So I'm not going to cover it here. What I will talk about is how to crack a marketing interview once you have a shortlist, right? Now, if I were to put it down to what recruiters look like, there are 3 things. Unfortunately, it looks like Gyan and unfortunately, I can't. Oh, by the way, a few questions that have come in, so I'll just sort of answer them as well. So before I go forward here, right? So Abhishek asks, what is B2B marketing? Does it related to digital marketing? B2B marketing is basically selling to businesses, right? So you can do marketing to sell to Varun Satia as an individual, as a user. That is B2C marketing, which is consumer marketing, right? So Cashify sells to end users. Whereas you can do B2B marketing, where you sell to Kraftshala, the business, right? So if you're selling your product to other businesses, that is called B2B, business to business marketing, right? Okay, good. Nidhi asked, can we get some examples to show intent? To show intent, you need to have an internship, you need to have relevant projects, you need to have relevant certifications. You need to, if anything that shows that you're already doing what you wanted to do for free without anything shows intent, right? So if you want to, for example, say I'm great at content writing, which is one part, then you should have already written content, and you should have some proofs to demonstrate that you are interested in it and you're growing in it, right? So anything that shows that whatever you were going to get paid to do, you're already doing it for free, or in your college you've taken something additional, right? So let's say that you're doing BBA, right? If you've just done a course in something, that is like a mandatory course for you, right? So you had to do it. That's not showing intent. So it's when you go over and beyond something, you pick up a project that you were not mandated to do, that's what is shown by doing intent. Kritika, I hope I've answered your questions. Courses and marketing would work. I think programs like Kraftshalas work. I think that it is better than nothing to take something. So even if you do a free Google certification, anyone can get it. Most digital marketing professionals have it. But is that enough? Probably not, right? But it's better than zero. If you have nothing and you have that at least is better, but it will not be enough. And so you want to get some projects in, right? Projects, internships, real work is what you need to go for, right? Akshay says this program is for marketing role or digital marketing role, right? It's a great question, Akshay. This is something that I really want to clarify to everyone out there. There is only one thing that exists: marketing in the digital world. Okay, there is no such thing as marketing without digital today, right? So this is for people who want to do marketing in a digital world. Today, 20% of all digital marketing spends are happening on no, not 20%. After COVID, it is maybe about maybe I think it's crossed 1/3. In 2-3 years, it will be 60%, right? So in 4 to 5 years, 80% of all spends, or what, maybe not 4 to 5 years, 8 to 9 years, all spends will be on digital only. Digital is all there is to marketing that is left. So when you say marketing, when you say digital marketing, it means the same thing. What you really want to ask is this does this train you for a basic role, the ones that pay 2.5-3 lakh rupees, or does it train you for the strategy roles? The answer is that it trains you in jobs that are still entry level but will help you get into the strategy roles, and obviously jobs that because they're for people who are high potential, the salaries tend to be higher as well, right? So it's not about basic work, it's not about marketing versus just marketing, it's about basic versus strat, right? So it's a good question, and I'm very happy that you asked this. All right, I want to keep going at this stage. So as I said, this looks a little bit like Gyan, right? So you let me first get the last 2 points out of the way, right? Ability to appreciate and communicate nuance, that simply sort of is about great communication, to be honest, right? If you want to be a marketer, then you need to have the ability to communicate ideas. That's something which is there. Ability to work with people, that's there in any job, any team job that you will have. You will need to work with other people, so that's not very marketing specific, right? Now the one on the top, on the other hand, is very, very marketing specific, because it's really about problem solving, right? Structured, user-centric problem solving. So what marketers are great at are essentially they're great at solving solving problems, right? Now how do you demonstrate your user-centric problem solving, right? There are 5 things that I teach in a slightly longer session, but I've already taken 15 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on the 2 most important things that are there, and then I'm going to try and hopefully make the point from these are the 2 most important things in order to crack a marketing interview, right? So I'm going to take these 2 things up first, right? So first thing is that you want to get context for the category of that you're applying for, right? So let's say that you were to apply to Ola, right, in 2019, right? 2020 there is COVID, so I don't want to complicate things. Let's say that you have applied to a role as a marketing professional in Ola, right? Now, and you've gotten shortlisted for it. One of the things that you have to keep in mind is that you need to be able to solve problems for Ola. You need to understand what Ola as a marketing entity is going through right now. What are its marketing goals right now? Who is it competing with right now? What is the competition doing right now? And therefore, how Ola can succeed in the marketplace, right? So getting context of the brand that you've applied for, which is Ola, as well as the competition, is very, very important. And the way to get context is by doing your homework on the marketing campaigns that Ola is launching, as well as that Uber is launching, right? So what did I show you? I showed you one campaign from 2015 which talked about the fact that Ola is the most convenient solution, right? By 2016, they realized that, look, convenience is not the only thing. A lot of people can be brought into this category if we teach them how, if we tell them that, look, the Ola Micro is just $6 a kilometer. It's much cheaper than what you think it might be, right? So 2015 they do it, 2016 they do this. Let's say 2017 they continue with it. By 2018, both Ola and Uber are highly penetrated in the urban cities, which means that they're most consumers who can afford to use these services are already aware and using these services. So at that point, the business goal has changed. At that point, it is no longer about attracting new users into the category. It is about taking share away from your competitors. And this is something that is true in the app-based taxi. If you use Uber, you also have Ola. And if you use Ola, you also have Uber on your app, right? You might have preference for one over the other, but you will have both, because sometimes the waiting times are a lot, or you need to go to some place, whatever be the case, right? A lot of the times people just make their choice on whatever is the cheapest option. Ola showing me 100 rupees, Uber is showing me 90 rupees, therefore let me take Uber, right? Now Uber can get more customers like that, but they've just lost $10 in order to get that customers. So what would be amazing is if a brand can convince you to take your product, even if it is not the most expensive, right? So let's say you need to go to some place, Ola is at 105, Uber is at 100. Ideally, you just, if you're Ola, you just want people to come in and take you, right? You don't even want them to look at Uber, right? Because you want to build what is called brand preference. You want them to prefer you even if the other one is slightly more expensive. You don't even want to see it, right? Because they'll be in the range, right? It'll not be 100 and 150. If it is, then obviously no consumer, no matter what brand love exists, they're going to go for the cheaper option. But as long as the pricing is similar, which often it is, let's say 70, 60, 70% times it's within 5 to 10% range, then you want people to prefer your brand and not the competitor's brand. Now, how you do that is where marketing tends to play games, right? Because how do you build preference? Sometimes you can say you will build preference by giving a lot of gyan, like I'm giving you a lot of gyan here, right? But most people don't want a lot of gyan, right? Even it's hard to listen to anyone giving gyan, right? So what you do is you tell interesting stories, and when you tell interesting stories, people tend to like you, right? So Uber did this really well, by the way, in 2018, right? They knew that now it's just about Ola versus Uber. So as long as people start liking my brand a lot, they'll stop gradually, not immediately, but gradually they'll stop using Ola a lot. And in these kind of cases, at least people will prefer me, right? I think I have the campaign here. Yeah, so this is in Hindi, guys. I mean, the first Ola campaign was in Hindi, so I apologize if we don't have subtitles on this one. But I was going to say that we're going to put in subtitles, but frankly, I don't think we're allowed to sort of modify that campaign. So have a look. Most of this it's great music. So I hope you enjoy the music, and you might see a familiar face there as well, right? Have a look. Just a second.
छोटा हो सफर, चाहे लंबे फासले, अब रुकना नहीं, दुनिया बदले चले। नन्हे नन्हे कदमों में बड़े बड़े अरमान है। चल तू निडर उड़ान पर, अब खुले आसमान है। रास्ते खुलने लगे, बढ़ते चले, बैठे बैठे जिंदगी में होता नहीं कुछ भी। दिखने लगी अब मंजिलें, चट्टानों को चीरती चलती नदी ही बढ़ते चले, बढ़ते चले। सुबह हो या शाम हो या काली आधी रात, हमको तो चलते जाना है, कैसी भी बरसात हो। तेरे वादों की सड़क, चल तू बेधड़क निडर, इरादों की है रोशनी, तो आसा हर सफर। अब रास्ते खुलने लगे, जुनू तेरा, जुनू मेरा, बढ़ते चले, बढ़ते चले। कहे अब रुकना नहीं, बढ़ते चले, बढ़ते चले। हर दिन लाखों लोग जुनून लिए बढ़ रहे हैं आगे, और हर सफर में उनके साथ है उबर, बढ़ते चले।
Sorry, my bad. I forgot to mute, right? So, these people in this campaign, they haven't spoken about convenience. They haven't spoken about pricing. They've simply spoken about how Uber helps people move forward, right? And if you're the kind of person who's really sort of striving to get better in life, then this is the kind of campaign that will really sort of resonate with you. And that's why the choice of Virat Kohli is so great, right? Because he's the guy who's always pushing forward, right? Anyone who follows RCB knows the pain of seeing Kohli push forward, even if the results are not great. But that's essentially what the brand is trying to do, right? You see that ad, you resonate with the message, you like that music, you tend to start to build a preference for Uber, right? So the first app that you open up starts to being Uber, right? So in that sense, if you're applying for a job in Ola today, you need to know what your company is doing. You need to know what the competitor is doing in order to wean away your users. And so therefore, how do you coming in from the outside can help them, right? If you can show them that you understand their problems really well, even as a young marketing professional, it's okay. Like, you know, you don't have access to a lot of data, you will not have magical insights. It's not about that. It's simply about making sure that that you understand the context, so that when you're asked questions, then you're able to answer them well. Right now, the next question you're going to ask me is what kind of questions are asked, at least from a functional point of view, right? Because a lot of people will tell you what is asked from a behavioral standpoint, and obviously those are very important. But by the way, there's a framework that we teach in, so you can find this on the Kraftshala channel. We've just uploaded some videos today on how to get context, right? So there's a whole framework that we teach on how you can use sort of reverse marketing, which is basically like reverse engineering. You open a product to see how it works. In reverse marketing, you open a campaign to see what they're trying to do and how successful they're at, right? So in this case, you can see that Uber is trying to wean away users from Ola, whereas in the earlier campaigns, you could see Ola trying to talk to users who've never used app-based taxis, right? That's basically covering what the source of growth or the business objective is. So there's a whole framework that you can refer to here. I don't want to get into that here. But what I want to talk about is the open-ended marketing questions. And this is the last thing that I'm going to be talking about today, which is the kind of marketing questions that people ask. Now, Sana has also asked similar questions. You know, she's already completed some marketing course. And she's asked, how do I prepare for an interview, right? So these are the kinds of questions that you are typically asked, and the way that most people respond is that they give ideas, right? So they'll say, oh, why don't you take the YouTube masthead? If you don't know masthead, don't worry about it. You know, it's like you know, it's just that block that comes in when you open youtube.com, right? So that's what is called masthead. Or you can say that whatever is the hottest new platform, you know, that's where I'm going to show my campaign. So Insta Reels just got launched a few months ago. Spotify's user base has increased, and so on and so forth. Or people give the worst answer out of all, which is, why don't you increase your overall spend, right? So people are start to give ideas, and that's not how you work in the real world, and that's not how you crack a marketing interview, right? Instead, what you need to do is to use a structure to break the problem into smaller problems, and then follow the user blindly, right? Which is the second step I said. First, I said get context. Then I said follow the user blindly, right? What does it mean? So let's solve one of the questions, which is the fact that if someone asks you, look, our paid campaign is not working, right? Ola asks you, look, our paid campaign is not working in, right? What does that mean? It means only three things, right? There are only three possibilities. Either not enough people have seen your ad, that's one possibility, or people have seen it, but they did not click on the ad, right? So they did not press install, or people clicked, but they did not convert, right? So they saw the ad, they even clicked on the ad, but they didn't find what they found at the end of that ad in order to do whatever action that they wanted, right? Now, depending on what the situation is, you then proceed forward, right? So if it's an interview question, first you present this, then you say that, look, if I know that not enough people have seen the ad, then I know that there are only 4 or 5 possibilities that are there. One is that the budget split is not right? Where I'm spending money is not accurate, right? Or the budget itself is insufficient, right? So maybe I'm not spending enough monies in order to break through. So maybe my targets are just not there. Or I have not chosen the right channels to run it, right? Maybe my audience is on X, but I'm spending my money on another platform. Or I have not found the TG correctly on the digital medium, right? We talked about how Facebook gives you immense number of targeting options, right? If you're Cashify and you are running ads randomly, instead of running ads on people who are more likely to be selling phones, then it's a problem, right? So I can look at my targeting as well, right? Now, beyond this, there's not much else of why people haven't seen the ad, right? Either you're spending your money on the wrong people, or you're just not spending enough money, right? That's the other way to look at it. Similarly, you can say that, okay, if enough people have seen the ad, but enough people have not clicked on the ad, then there are more possibilities there that the ad was shown on mediums where it was not contextual, right? So what does that mean? It means that you're showing your ad on mediums where, let's say that you're showing a Cashify ad on LinkedIn, hypothetically, right? I mean, sure, I mean, yeah, there are people who want to sell their phones on LinkedIn as well, but LinkedIn people are thinking of professional things. They don't have, like money to buy new phones there. Whereas Instagram or even Hotstar for that matter might be better platforms for them. Similarly, the ad was not shown at the right time, or that the creative, which means the ad itself that you're showing is a problem, right? And finally, the third piece is people clicked on the ad but did not convert. And if that is there, then there are more possibilities which are there, right? So it could be the fact that the landing page, the page that you're taking them, is not good. Maybe the user experience there is not great. Maybe there could be so many other things which are there, right? So not to sort of keep going on this, but if you show them this analysis, this structured way of thinking about it, then your chances of cracking the interview are very, very high, right? And so that is where I want to sort of leave you with. Make sure that you follow the user-centric thinking, and you'll do well, right? Now, as I said, those who have already applied for the Marketing Launchpad, the screening test is on 11th of October. So I hope, I think it's 11th of October, it's a Sunday. And I hope you do well. And those of you who are still here, please put in your feedback. First time I'm doing a session on using this platform. A lot of you seeing me in a session for the first time as well. So do give your feedback as well, and follow us on Insta and on YouTube. Now let me take in some questions while we're talking about this. Chaitanya says, will it be rehosted? Yes, Chaitanya, you should follow the YouTube page, and you'll get to know when this will happen. All right. Gagan says, I'm a BBA third year student. Can I apply? You can only apply if you have no requirement to attend. So it's a full-time program, the Marketing Launchpad. What that means is you will be attending classes, doing projects, and a whole host of things from 9 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. or something like that. So in that sense, there's no time to do anything else. The moment you complete the 12 weeks, you go into the internship. That's again full time, including 1 day on the Sunday. And once you finish that, you straight away get into a job. There is no time to take a 1 week break to give exams and all of that, right? That time doesn't exist. So I don't know what kind of degree you're pursuing, but you have to be very clear about it. You will not get you'll not get the time to sort of pursue other things whatsoever, right? So I would encourage you not to apply if you can't do this. Wait it out. Whenever we plan to open applications next in April, so you can choose to apply at that point if you'd like. Jay said it's possible to take the course alongside a job. As I said, Jay, it's a full-time role, so we don't have a part-time option. If you want to, we want people who can afford to commit to this program. That's why we have kept it free initially, right? Because it's not about the money. We understand that you haven't yet earned, and so therefore you want to pay from your earnings, and that's fine. But you need to be committed to this, and we want to make sure that you're taking the maximum out of this. Is the program online or offline? It's completely 100% online. Ruchi said, can you tell us a little bit what the screening test will be about? The screening test is going to test you on incidentally on the three things that people essentially look for in marketing interviews as well. So the first step is simply about checking on your analytical aptitude and verbal ability. So that's something that will be there. And then it will be about understanding how well you appreciate nuance and how user-centric you are. Yeah. So those are the two things that it will check in on. You might want to prepare a little bit on the analytical ability, and all on nuance. We will share some videos with you that you can use to prepare as well. Right. So so that's how the test is going to be like. It will be an online proctored test. Yeah, that's about it. Hanisha said, what is the procedure to enroll in the program? You have to go and apply, give the screening test on 11th, and you can find in more details. When is the program going to start? The program begins on 19th of November, right after Diwali. 14th November is Diwali. 5 days after that, the program would have begun. But obviously, all this, everything, the admissions would have been wrapped up in October. All right, Anand, if you need any more details, you can go ahead and apply and you can ask people there. All right, so Atharv said, I want to give the screening test earlier. Atharv, I can't help you there. We've we are trying to get the results out quickly. So you will have more than 1 month as a notice period. Beyond that, we can't really manage it because, as I said, there are hundreds of people applying. Actually, let me rephrase. There are thousands of people applying. We have 30 spots essentially to fill up. So we can't do tests on a personalized basis. The test is on the first test is on 11th of October. There's a later date as well, but we've done this essentially to allow people that 1 month notice period. Beyond that, you'll have to persuade them that look, that this is something that I need to do. So you'll have to, and 1 month is what most organizations are going at. All right, what will be the job profile and the role we will be getting? Will it be target based, demanding much effort like most marketing jobs? Patrick, the target based are usually sales jobs. So sales jobs are, like sell me 5 lakh rupees of product in a month, right? Marketing is, as I said, at one to many. So you're not selling stuff yourself. You do have targets, but they're not weekly targets, daily targets. They are targets related to whatever the goal is. It could be downloads, it could be installs, it could be sales. It should be sales as well, but it can be a whole host. If it's organic content, it could be viewers, right? So targets are there everywhere, but it's not sales targets where you have to sell that kind of stuff, right? So if you want to know what kind of profiles are going to be there, most people start in as a marketing analyst, performance marketing manager, SEO manager, SEO analyst, SEO manager. In some cases, if you do well, you can become a client and an account manager. Those are the kinds of roles that we're essentially gunning you for. Chaitanya says, when can we expect the preparation material? I think should get it pretty soon. We're targeting this week itself. So I don't know if Nishtha can help give a better answer to this, but I would say it should happen pretty soon. Certainly, I think this week you should get it. All right, this is an interesting question. Nikhil said, if I'm doing a technical job, how do I switch to a marketing within the same company? So one, you need to see whether the company in general is open or not, right? So if you're working in a company like Kraftshala, for instance, will always be open if someone wants to move from one to the other, provided they have the toolkit to succeed in the second one as well, right? So companies want to do this for employees that they really want to retain. But the company policies have to be such, right? Any very, very large, very, very bureaucratic organization is going to give you pain. Any organization which is more nimble, more open-minded, it's going to be easier. So if there are precedents, that's helpful. If there's no precedent, then you can still give it a shot. The best way to do it is to start doing marketing already, and and basically start solving problems for your marketing team. So what that means essentially is it's about generating relevant work X, right? You're doing your technical job, but you need to generate relevant marketing work X for your marketing team to feel that this person has what it takes to succeed in the role, right? So we were speaking, Nishtha was speaking recently to someone who was from a design background. And what she basically did was she made a whole deck for her CEO on a whole host of things. But in those things, she also put in stuff related to marketing that had nothing to do with her job, right? But there was still stuff that she could work on, right? Because they were related to search engine optimization, content, how the website should look like, and so on and so forth, right? So once that happened, the senior manager, the CEO in that case said, why don't you work with the marketing team to solve the problems? And then she got another marketing project, and hopefully the transition for her is going to happen. So what you need to do is you need to work with the marketing team to figure out what are the kind of problems that they're having. You need to have some marketing knowledge to help them in their problems, and then you need to go out and find a way to present it to senior people who have the wherewithal to pull you out of technical into marketing, right? So it's a very good way of going about it, but it's not a defined way. It could take in 3 months, it could take in 2 years. I can't really sitting here predict it, but you need to make sure that you have some relevant work experience, and the fact that you know the product from a technical point of view can be a value add. So the other way that you can look about it is, which marketing role requires a lot of technical value add that you possess, and that might be a good place to start in, right? One of the things that I always recommend people when they're applying to jobs that they don't have a relevant work cases, find a job where there is at least some overlap, right? Even if it's not a complete overlap, even if there's some overlap, then at least those people know that they are getting this from you. You're at least good at this piece, and then the rest of it you will learn if you have interest and if you have the relevant toolkit, and that toolkit is very specific to the job at hand, right? But it's a good question, and I wish you all the best for it. All right. Jinal asked, what's the fees? The fees is 3 months of your salary once you get a job above 4.5 lakh rupees. If you don't get a job above that value, then you don't pay anything for the program. That's what the fees is, right? Abhilasha, you can go in and apply. I hope that has been done. Ankush, thank you so much for your kind words. All right, so Ninad says, when will the next one be launched? We're thinking we'll open up applications next in April. That's the plan, but we'll see how things go. When can we expect the part-time program from Kraftshala? So we have part-time programs. It's just that they're not for entry-level roles right now. So we run programs for working professionals, which is the brand management in the digital age. Once again, marketing in the digital age. And we run obviously programs for current business school students as well, which I talked about at the start. So we don't have a part-time program for entry-level marketing roles right now. Hopefully at some point we'll have them. We certainly hope to do it, but for now we want to make sure that the Launchpad is going super. All right, can a family business be considered as work experience? It can, as long as you've done stuff there. So if it's just, a lot of people just get CV points to show, this kind of thing will not work. I mean, when I say work experience, you'll be asked on it, right? So yes, it absolutely 100% is, as long as you know your stuff. Awesome. Anyone else who has questions, I'm happy to answer. Otherwise, this is the last. All right. So Sana's asked, part-time program for working professionals. Where can I inquire about that? You can just go ahead and sort of check out the part-time programs for working professionals. Sana, it's on our Kraftshala website, or you can just apply on the program and on the homepage, and someone will send you the relevant information, right? Jinal says, is there a stipend in the internship? Yes, there is, right? We would expect it to be there, but as I said, I'm not a big fan of internships being judged by stipends, but my sense is all the internships will have stipends of some kind or not, right? That's probably going to be there, but it's not something that is there. But if you're financially not great, then this will help you sort of earn your way into continuing to do well. Okay, Shubh says we'll get a recording of this. Yes, we'll send it to you. I think that's there. What kind of job roles can one get in marketing right after BBA? It depends a little bit on the kind of institution that you're coming from. Not a big fan of a lot of degrees out there, but some of the degrees are really good, Kritika. So I'll be hard pressed to answer that without knowing a background. Yeah. Super. That's it from my end. Thank you for your kind words, Sana. I had a great time as well. I wish you guys all the best. Take care.